been reached. Israel certainly has not. It has severely criticized the deal today. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, issued a statement saying, and I'm quoting, "It is true that the international pressure which we applied was partly successful and has led to a better result than what was originally planned, but this is still a bad deal." The Secretary of State, John Kerry, says the deal will actually help Israel's security.
I believe that from this day for the next 6 months, Israel is in fact safer than it was yesterday because we now have a mechanism by which we are going to expand the amount of time in which they can break out rather than narrow it. We are going to have insights to their program that we didn't have before.
All right, so let's bring in the former senator, the former vice presidential nominee, Joe Lieberman, is joining us. Senator, thanks very much for coming in.
Great to be with you, Wolf. Thank you.
All right, a few days ago, you wrote an important op-ed article in the Washington Post saying that given Iran's history, the U.S. needs to be very wary of dealing with the Iranians. What are your thoughts about this current 6-month deal?
Well, the point of the op-ed that I wrote was to say that when we deal with Iran, we're not dealing with a friend. And the more I have dealt in foreign policy, the more it seems to me like human relations. You got to know who your friends are and who your enemies are, and don't treat your enemies like friends until they prove that they've changed. Iran is an enemy. There's American blood on Iranian hands going way back to the Marine barracks in Beirut a long time ago, and they have of course, they're an autocratic government that represses their own people, contrary to our own values. But relevant to this agreement, the Iranians have a terrible record of not keeping agreements and, frankly, of lying. So the main point I wanted to make in that op-ed was when you negotiate with Iran, be careful. And frankly, if I had my way, I wouldn't have seen the U.S. or the P5+1 negotiate an interim agreement. I would have held out, kept the sanctions on, and gone for the comprehensive agreement, because the interim agreement seems to set a new normal, which is really an unsustainable and bad one.
But don't you have to start somewhere in dealing with an adversary? You know, the U.S. was once bitter enemies with Japan or Germany or even China. So you start with modest steps. You try to improve a relationship and hope that things will change. This is a relatively modest step, but potentially very significant.
Well, time will tell. I mean, this probably is a historic agreement, but we won't know until 6 months or beyond. I mean, if it sets up the situation for a comprehensive agreement, which I doubt, then it will be historically positive. If, as I fear, it creates a new normal where people decide Iran's open for business again, and yet they've given up none of their nuclear infrastructure, really, and are just as ready to break out to build a nuclear weapon as they were yesterday, then this will be seen as a historically catastrophic agreement, which really made the world much more insecure. I always believe that you've got to talk to your enemies, but what I'm saying here is I believe it was a mistake to enter into an interim agreement. I think the better course for us and our allies would have been to negotiate to a comprehensive agreement. It's going to be tough, but I'd rather learn that up front than create this entirely new situation where people start doing business with Iran again. If we don't enter into the full comprehensive agreement, the world's going to be a lot less safe.
Senator Lieberman, thanks so much for joining us. Have a happy Thanksgiving and a happy Hanukkah this week as well. We always like having you here on CNN.
Thank you. Same to you, Wolf. All the best.